Because the master promised him, the young Palestinian left Akka to Europe to start a new life. A story that is told by Mr. Rushlani, who was a pioneer in South America. In my youth, in the 1970s, in the company of a local friend, we set out on a teaching trip to a far-flung region in Argentina. We left with the intention to teach, and with no particular destination in mind, we drove for many hours on rough roads. And when we were in much need of a break and some refreshment, we came to a little restaurant on the side of the road. We stopped. By now, it was late in the afternoon, and the restaurant was not crowded. It was quiet. After being served by a young boy and girl, they came and joined us at our table. We took the opportunity to tell them about the faith. As it was our intention to teach, we had with us a photo album with pictures of Baha'i holy places and the Holy Land. We began to turn these pages, showing them the photos and speaking of the various holy places and their importance. At this time, an old man with a walking aid came out of the house which was connected to the restaurant and joined us. He politely asked about who we were and where we were going, because this place was in the middle of nowhere. He also inquired what the object of our travels was. So we took the opportunity to show him the photos as well. He looked at the photos and listened to us. Clearly, he was fascinated and interested in the pictures of Haifa and Akka, but said very little. The last photo in the album was a portrait of Abdu'l-baha. When the old man saw this photo, he took the album from my hand and held the photo close, looking intensely at the picture for some time without saying a word. After maybe a minute or two, he asked, "Who is he?" I told him, "This is Abdu'l-baha." And then there was a pause. He said, "Is he called by any other name?" I said, "Yes, Abbas." There was another pause, and then he repeated for a few times the name, Abbas, Abbas, Abbas. And then he said, "Abbas Effendi?" I said, "Yes." By this time, his eyes had welled up. He held the picture close to his chest and said, "This is my lord, Abbas Effendi, the master of Akka." He got up and said, "Please join me. This table is not worthy and deserving of your visit. Please join me." He took us into his house and served us with much love. Then he said, "I am Palestinian, and during World War I, I lived in Akka as a young boy. My mother died and my father was sick. We lived in poverty without food to eat, like many other families in Akka who lived in absolute poverty. We would walk every day to Haifa from Akka, and this blessed man, Abbas Effendi, would cook food and serve with his own blessed hands to us this food. This was the only sustenance we received on a daily basis." He goes on to say, "One day I was extremely hungry and ate my food in much haste, and then joined the food line again. The beloved master, while serving me with a smile, said, 'You must be really hungry that you've come for a second helping.' I replied, 'Dear master, this food is not for me. It is for my father who is sick and hungry at home.' Hearing this, the master took a separate container and filled it with food for my father. From then on, every day, a separate container was ready for me, which I carried back to my father. After the war and the death of my father, Abbas Effendi was my only protector. He was my everything and everyone. Eventually, a ship from Europe arrived, and they photographed the many orphans and lonely children among whom I was one. We got passports, which gave us the opportunity to leave Akka for a better life. but I didn't want to leave. I was distressed and crying. The Master wiped my tears and said, "Don't cry. You will go to a better place, where you will have food, education, and clothing." I replied, "But Master, you won't be there. I don't want to be separated from you." And then he made me a promise. "You will see me again. Trust in God and take this opportunity to start a new life." I only left because Abbas Effendi promised me that I would see him again. And as I had complete faith in what he said, I left. On the day we left Akka, only Abbas Effendi was at the shipyard to say goodbye to us. He was the only hope and care for us destitute children. There was no one else. He goes on to share many other anecdotes and stories, then says, "For years, I've been waiting to see Abbas Effendi again, as he promised. Today, you have fulfilled this yearning in my heart. There is no other yearning and wish in this life for me now. Everything that Abbas Effendi said would happen has now happened. My life has been fuller than I could have ever imagined. This is my restaurant, and these two youths are my grandchildren. Every day we cook and serve those who come to our restaurant. We need to do this to earn a living." The Master fed us not because he needed to, but because of his love for us. In reality, it was his love that sustained us and gave us hope and a reason to live. We tried to visit him, but he had passed away. This is a simple story from Abdu'l-baha's life, but it gives us a small glimpse of the extraordinary life and service of the Master. This is the standard we are called to aspire to, the standard of a life of service and of complete self-sacrifice. Abdu'l-baha spent every afternoon, never missing a day, in service to the community.